Perfect. Thanks. Well, hello everyone to the third Ask Me Anything session for the Decentraland community. I'm Pablo again from the Grant Support Squad. Well, while everyone joins, I'd like to briefly tell you what are the next steps of the Ask Me Anything initiative and share some links with you. First, I think here's the Slido that you can use today. Second, I don't know if you received the recording of the SDK AMA session, but I'm gonna share it here too. Maybe you'd like to have it. Regarding the technical AMA's agenda, we will have the dApps session next Wednesday, and then we will pause for a month to restart the sessions on 11th January. We are very happy to see the AMAs happening. And meanwhile, if you have any question or blocker, please feel free to ping the Grant Support Squad or the Verified Partners Registry. We will try to have the answers as soon as you need them. We always want to see successful projects, and here we are to support you. Well, that aside, we have another invitation for you. Tomorrow, December the 1st, is the Decentraland PC VR client beta testing. If you can join, please check the calendar link. I'm gonna share it here too. It's tomorrow. And you need a VR headset and a Windows PC to participate. And it will be very useful if you can join. Also, we will invite you to the beta testing for the Decentraland editor. You have the announcement on Discord, and we will send you an email with all the information soon, because it's a lot of stuff altogether. Well, today is the Explorer session, and I'll pass to Alvaro, I think, who is going to share screen and handle the first presentation about the Explorer. So Alvaro, thanks for being here, and go on.
Thank you, Pablo. I'm sharing my screen. Everybody can see it.
Yes.
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 Okay, cool. Very good. First of all, thank you everybody for joining this AMA and to take your interest into the Explorer and what the Explorer team is doing. So as we mentioned already, we have the Slido, so you can go there and ask your questions and vote for the most interesting question that can be brought up here. I would like to just introduce you to the Explorer team, understand what are we doing, who we are, the kind of projects that we have been involved in the last few months, and a few things that are next to come in the roadmap, so you have more visibility about it. So let's do first the introduction of the team. We are quite large inside the foundation, so probably we are the biggest product engineer team so far. So a lot of people actually here in the conversation, so some of them may reply to your questions, including Naga, that will help me to deliver this presentation on the performance and stability part. So yeah, we are very engaged into delivering the Explorer, and the Explorer, we have this motto or this mission about what are we going to deliver. We are trying to build the reference client on top of the main protocol of Decentraland. That is the best, that will provide the best experience for players in terms of performance, how visually appealing it is, or how easy to use it for everybody. So we can make the user generated by the community, the content generated by the community to really shine and to make the most of it, right? At the end of the day, we are trying to do that across all the different devices. But for now, the two applications that we are leading are the Explore web version, that was the initial one, building Unity, and also the distribution for the desktop version that right now provides better graphics and better stability in general, as it can take more resources on your devices. So yeah, we are in charge of those two things. Wanted to show you a little bit what we're doing right now in this quarter. We are building a new friend request workflow that will allow players to. We have found that actually friends have some problems trying to, achieve a relation, right? Friendships are neither accepted or rejected. So we are really working on that to make sure that people understand when they have received a friend request, or to make an informed decision on whatever the information can be provided on that specific request. Also, I think I have some screenshots here, so I can show you directly. We are working as well on new passports. So we have today a very small passport that is really very useful. So now we have a new space for players to, show their profile, write their introduction or their bio, show the links on social media, as well to be able to inspect the avatar in 3D or create a new relationship with people, right? This is new passport. It's intended to be a platform for new sections in the future. Right now, for example, in the marketplace, players, content creators are able to create a user store that is not integrated anywhere inside the Explorer. So probably we will have a new section here for that. And in the future, if we achieve what we want to achieve in terms of social connections and social network, we will probably use this space for people to post their content and to be able to connect with them, something that I will show you in a minute. Also, as I mentioned, well, I didn't mention, but probably the passport will come with a few customization options that will be coming along the name. So this is added value for the names. People can customize color schemes, or the kind of effects are shown in the background, or even the kind of items that they want to show on their profiles in terms of emotes or wearables, etc. And this will also come with the customization of the name tag on the label that you will be showing whenever are in world. People will be differentiated between guest players, wallet players, or names players. Also, as I mentioned before, we're working on this new friend request workflow that will allow players to send a specific message on why they want to create a relation. That is essential, because right now you are in an event, you are crossing other people, you don't know why they want to be friends with you. So probably a lot of people are not really accepting those. So we want to create a better workflow for that, so people can make a really informed decision. So that comes together with the passports. So you can go and see how many mutual friends you have with a person, understand the biography, etc. Yeah, a few other things that we're going to be working in the next few months is we have been crafting this social network that will allow players to post content inside Decentraland, also about scenes or places, so they can have their own feed and it can create a connection and a community with other players. So we can start creating a kind of a network or a kind of wall where you can be engaged with the content inside Decentraland and keep connected and keep connected with the content. Like I don't know, I want to know what is going on in Wondermine or an Asperger or in this museum, etc. At the same time, you're connected with your friends. Other things that we're doing, we are working more on loading screens. So we make sure that scenes can have that space really to introduce the scenes, to show tips or descriptions about the content that you're going to visualize there or to experience there. that comes a little bit with a few things that we're doing for the Worlds initiatives that maybe we can talk about that later. Other things, we are coming back to quests. We know that we did a version 1. We was a little bit drowned by success. So we're going to be creating a new version of it, together with the ability of players to have badge, to show them in the profile, to have achievements on whatever things that they have done in the platform, things that they have done in different places, or the kind of contribution that they have with the ecosystem of the Decentraland. So there's a few things that we're working on there. And yes, also we're working on new version of emotes. I think emotes have been a great success and everybody loved them. So we would like to improve on that user-generated economy by allowing players to have emotes with his own geometry, as you can see in that picture. So if I am doing a tennis emote, I can show the racket and I can show the ball. I can play sounds at the same time. So it is like going the next step on that economy. I'm actually leaving the ground for maybe the NFT items. So you people can start using guns or any kind of items that you can have in your inventory and using World. So this is the kind of things that we have in the roadmap. We have actually a bunch of stuff that we are designing right now, but I only wanted to show you a glimpse of that. I'm gonna leave the space for Aga to talk about performance and scalability. Aga?
Yes, I guess we could go to the next slide and go with the key metrics, and then we can go to roadmap. I'll shuffle this around a bit.
Okay.
But okay, before jumping into like the key metrics and how we actually evaluate the performance of the platform, I would like to first maybe give a bit of more context on what exactly environment we are working on. So if you're thinking about, developing games in general, we work in an environment where everything is really static. In a way, you can make a lot of different tricks, things to mimic different real life experiences, because you control everything, the environment, the different assets that are put there. Everything is pretty much scripted in a nutshell. Here on the platform, we have a bit more challenging setting that we are trying to now accommodate for all your creativity. Basically, we are trying to be as open as possible with the platform and different possibilities that you can create really cool stuff. So for us, making sure that the platform is stable and performant is actually a lot of challenging and like iterative work that we do on daily basis to make sure that as we fix the platform, you always push the boundaries even further. So basically that means that we continuously do smaller improvements as we go, and we work really closely also with the SDK team to make sure that the platform on both sides is as good as it can be on different platforms. And supporting web also gives us a bit of challenges because of the limitation of the platform itself. So we are actually monitoring the performance on different metrics, but I think the three listed here on this slide are, I think, the most reliable in terms of also user experience. So on daily basis, we track hiccup times, and what I mean by that is basically every experience that you have in games or on Decentraland is we use the frame time to determine like what's the smoothness of the experience. So the hiccup time is something that if some of the frames are basically taking more time to render, makes it look like it's stuck on the screen. So we track those frame times that are taking a bit longer time, making you feel that the experience is rough, things are frozen, and so on. Also, another important metric is the sessions with critical error. So basically, anytime you experience crash, that you need to reload the platform or so on, it's not great for user experience. So we actually did a lot of improvements on that front. We lowered the crash rate, especially on the web client, a lot. So before it was something like you couldn't browse through the world for more than half an hour because the client will just crash. So we did a lot of improvements on that front. And as I mentioned, we also, of course, tracking the frame time, making sure that the higher the FPS is, the smoother the experience is for people to use the platform. So we did quite a big improvement on that front in a couple past months. But as I mentioned, this is something ongoing. We are constantly working towards that. In terms of the hiccups, as you can see, we actually did not improve. And this is also main reason that we have been now adding a bit of more features for the social, and there was a bit of traction. So for example, if you open UI and there's a few frames or few seconds of loading time, this will affect actually that metric. So not necessarily mean that the whole overall experience is poorer, but it's just on this specific time there's a small extra computation needed that causes this metric to raise. And if you can go back one slide back now to the roadmap.
Yep, this one.
So yeah, in terms of what we are working on right now, so we actually managed finally to get the Unity 2021 update that is actually going today live. So hopefully in a few hours it will be available for everyone to try, and that brings quite a few improvements, mostly in terms of memory consumption, but also allows us to increase the memory cap for WebGL, which will lower the amount of crashes that people experience, but also have a bit more improvements for macOS and newer GPU like the M1 desktops, the machines. So the rendering will also mean that it will not crash that much on the desktop version. And in the progress, we have actually big improvement for GLTF's importer. So it's not only about actually performance that is on a as a site as well, but we are also going to introduce a bit of more functionality for the GLB format itself. So for example, having support for vertex color, having support for blend shapes and so on, which is actually a really cool addition for creators to use it when creating scenes. Yeah, for 2023, we have a lot of different ideas, but at this point, I will leave you with a little bit of mystery for the next MMA sessions, so we can share a bit more on that front later on. All right, so I think it's time for the questions then.
Yeah, so you have the slider here. I will open it in a minute. Just wanted to mention a few questions, probably going to be regarding general things. The Explorer team cannot really live without other teams like the dApps team or the services team or the platform teams. At the end of the day, we are orchestrated into building one single solution, and we have different dependencies. So maybe some of the questions that you asked are going to require us to really talk with these other teams in order to reply. Okay, so sorry for that, but we will, if we cannot really reply some of the things, we will go back later, reply it on written, and send it back to Pablo so you can distribute it. Okay, so let's go for the Slido. Should I share the Slido so we can see the questions, or?
Yes, Alvaro, most of the times we do that, so the rest of the audience can easily follow up.
Okay. So, first question. You can see my screen, right? Here.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you can zoom in, that would be awesome.
I can. Okay. Here is better.
Eso.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Muy bien. Okay. So, first question about from Pablo. Free the camera. I was asking for SDK, but it might be cool for cinematic and pictures as feature also in Explorer without need to use for clients. Cool. This is a nice question. Yes, you're gonna be freeing the camera. Okay. The idea is to, at the end of the day, for different gameplay reasons, you should be able to modify the camera position or the things that the camera is tracking. For example, if you want to create a race game, you want to start tracking a car, or if you want to create a point-and-click adventure, you would like to point the camera in fixed positions, or maybe do a follow-up or stuff like that. For many different reasons, for many different gameplay mechanics, we probably will allow the camera to be free, and it's going to be probably, I won't say which quarter, but it's going to be in mid next year for sure. But also this will come probably with permission, right? So we need to have in mind that players we enter in and out from different scenes, and they need to have some sort of a consistent experience. So in this case, it should come with request permission to the player on, I'm gonna be using, or this scene is going to be using your camera. You will allow the scene to be able to use it, because otherwise the scene can do crazy stuff, and the player can have a really inconsistent experience inside the world. So that will come with that handicap. At the end of the day, probably scenes will need to have permissions, or will need to require permission in the same way that you're doing with an Android or an Apple application. You need to have access to the camera, or access to the avatar position, or the camera position, etc. I hope that answered that question. We can go for the next one. Ariel, when will the desktop client available in other OS besides Windows? Well, it is already available for Mac, but version of Mac you can right now download it and install it. The only problem is that we have not yet signed the application with the developer signature from Apple. So it means that it's being all the time flagged as a software liability or problem. So we are working toward that direction, and that's going to be Q1. So we're going to have the application ready and signed by Apple. So that won't cause the problem that we're discussing right now, that every time that the application tries to update itself, it cannot do it because it doesn't have permission on writing on disks. So that's one of the things that we're going to tackle on the first quarter. If you want to go beyond that, if you want to go for a Linux version, I think at some point we had a version working on Linux, but we need to admit that the kind of population, the amount of population using Linux today is very small compared with the amount of work that we need to dedicate in order to launch a Linux version. So if the community does a poll and it does a lot of pressure to launch a Linux version, we will do it. But for now, we have more ambitious things in the oven than releasing a Linux one. I hope that answered your question, Ariel. Any feeling about WebGPO? Yeah. Worst feelings ever. No, I got this for you.
Yeah, I can take that. So in general, we are using Unity as our main engine for the reference client. So at this point, from my understanding, Unity is focusing only on WebGL and not really the web GPU for the browser. So at this point, we are basically bound by this, and we stick to WebGL that we have.
Okay. Does that answer the question? I don't know actually the question what it is, but
and I guess in terms of the feelings, it's like not all browsers still support it, so it's kind of like, let's wait a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important to mention, folks, based on our experience in the previous SAMAs, if the person who submitted the question is here, please raise up your hand, speak up. The idea is to have these spaces as two sides conversation, not just the foundation answering questions or delivering news.
Yeah, this is not a monologue. We can reply to a conversation. Okay, we can jump to the next one. Is there a way to upload 3D assets, GLB, and refer in the scene dynamically? Example, render model by API response without the need of upload the entire scene. This is a question for the SDK team. It's not a question for the Explorer. So we will pass that question to the SDK team and go back to you, anonymous person, whenever we have a reply, okay? Johnny Sharp, thoughts regarding improving leaderboard by adding a scene directory? Improving leaderboard? I don't understand the improving. Sorry, I'm maybe a little bit out of context here. Expansion of places leaderboard using point of interest data. Okay, so I guess what you mean with leaderboards is the scenes that are being promoted into the places section inside the Explore section of the Explorer, or okay. Yeah, I cannot really reply to this question. I don't really understand it. So if the person that raised this question wants to extend, we can talk about it. Otherwise, let's go to the next one. I don't know if anybody... Yeah, Anonymous. Do you measure how frequently a scene takes too much time to load? We have a lot of data about scenes. Loading times, it's one of them. We measure how much time it takes for assets to load, but I don't think we have average data on scenes, on how much time it takes to load a whole scenes, because there is no clear defined time when a scene is actually completed loading, right? Some people use tricks, so they load half of the scene, and then in the middle of it, they load the other half. But in any case, this is also, I guess this will be a question for the platform or the SDK team. So yes, we are measuring DLP and assets loading times, but not scenes. Yes. So next question, is there someone who can assist with understanding more about the deploy data format for updating the avatar's outfits?
Hey, this is Manimus. That was my question.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to build is a web application that's kind of like the backpack. The idea came about several months ago when, we had a lot of parties and auto dance, and, backpack items took a long time to load. This was before the pagination happened. Even now, with users have a lot of items, it was hard. So I was creating an external web application to sort of, browse the backpack a little bit easier, a little bit about the new passport features where you could see other people's outfits and things. So a large percentage of it is like social features, but the final 20% of it, I was hoping to be able to, send a content update request or something to be able to change the outfit from my web application. So I've seen sort of the content requests from the marketplace when you deploy new collections, sort of the build content requests. I've seen in the Explorer sort of the deploy avatar function and how that works. But I was trying to understand a little bit more about the format of the data when updating the outfit and updating the avatar specifically. So it doesn't have to be answered now, but if there was a specific contact or a couple people that kind of understand a little bit more about that, sometimes that's a little easier than posting an Explorer channel. I'm not sure who monitors that, but yeah, any thoughts on that situation?
Okay, so this is more about how do you modify the profile information of the avatar, and this is done via platform. So this is done via the Catalyst, I guess. Right now, Explorer, I don't know if it have a special permission in order to modify the profile. As far as I know, there is no other application that can allow us allow the system to equip any wearables or any emotes. But definitely, I think it will be a good addition. We need to see how. But I guess this is a question for the platform team. I don't know if the platform team has been here already in the AMA. We have just the SDK, right?
Yes, they were the first.
They were the first. Okay.
Yeah, I think Alejandro just shared on the chat
Yes.
the definition and documentation about the format for updating profiles.
Yeah, but I don't know if we need some sort of a specific permission scheme in order to update the profile, because otherwise probably everybody could be modifying it all the time, or you probably need to have your signature in order to sign the profile petition and in order to get approved. So your application probably will need integration with MetaMask or any other wallets. Okay, we will come back to you with this question, because it's a very interesting question, and we can reply it together with the platform team.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks.
Thank you. Maloy, with Emotes v2, will there be a potential for wearables to be submitted that have their own emotes attached? Additional bones? Cheers. Ooh, this is the rabbit hole. So the rabbit hole is about what comes first: the emotes that has a wearable, the wearable that has a emote, the item that have a wearable, or is a wearable or have an emote. It's a very complicated question, because we have been thinking about this for a while. So additional bones, let's talk about that later on a wearable. I can ask that question. Yeah, we have been thinking about having wearables that contains emotes. So we are building these in a way that we have building blocks. So at the end of the day, a wearable is something that can be equipped and that can trigger a portable experience, and that can trigger an emote, and that can trigger a sound, or that can extend geometry and introduce geometry in the world. We need to see how easy it is for content creators to create that kind of stuff, or how they link content together.
Hey, this is Maloy. Yeah, off the back of that, I didn't know that you were working on this, so this is awesome, because I was actually working with Grimy from Studio Sparkles on a little poll for the DAO, and we've managed to actually pull off an example of what can be done with multiple bones, because the thing is, you can actually upload a wearable with additional bones to the builder, but it doesn't obviously translate through into the client. We were thinking of maybe a system where when you make a wearable, you can add appendages, maybe like a parrot next to a pirate hat, and maybe that wearable could have maybe 3 additional emotes with it. So when you equip that wearable, you have the option to add 3 different emotes that are associated with that wearable to a dial. And we were just going to write up a presentation of how that would operate on the DAO. But it seems like you're way ahead. This is awesome. I'm super excited.
We are not way ahead. We don't have that yet implemented. We have been thinking about that a lot, because we always use the example of the helmet that have a big eye here and the eye is moving, right? So you want to have that. Or you can have, yes, as someone mentioned, the spring bone, Natalie, right? So you can have horns that does this when you move and all of that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
Okay, so it needs to come. Okay, the conversation that we had so far, and we wanted to do a few POCs in the past, it was to try to identify the status or machine on the animations of the avatar. So you can have, for example, you have your parrot, right? So your parrot is in your shoulder and is always applying the idle animation that is always called idle whenever the avatar is idle. Maybe when you're walking, when you start walking, or when you're walking, running, etc., you have different states. So those wearables can replay or play animations based on those status machine. So your wearables can react to that status machine. But that means that we need to identify those status, expose them to creators, and we need to find a really specific format on the number of bones, the number of geometries that can be applied to that kind of geometry. So yeah, I mean, definitely it's something that we would like to do. Probably we'll go first with emote version 2, so you can do the other way around. So you have an emote that actually extends geometry and plays something that is finite. It's something that you do at one moment in time. The other thing is about equipping something that can have an animation on the other side, okay? But yeah, definitely, we've been talking about that, and it's a very cool idea, and we think they can really improve the ecosystem of wearables.
Awesome, thank you.
Can we apply, Maloy again, can we apply, could we have, sorry, no. The question is gone. What happened? I didn't reply the first question.
Oh, so basically, I was wondering if we could possibly have multiple UV channels or multiple UV channel data for wearables, so that we can do things like, I guess, like tileable, tileable allocations and things like that. There's a lot that we can play with multiple UVs, but I guess it's just extra data, that gets loaded in.
Yeah. I think I don't know, in the industry you use different UVs for micro detail. For example, if you want to have a normal map specifically for micro detail, or yeah, I think we have thought about having multiple UV channels, but this is, I think, part of our more ambitious project that we have been discussed, but it's not the schedule, and about extending the number of materials that we can apply over the avatar. Okay, so we have a wider range, and we have a specific slots, so you can have a slot for a specific texture. They're gonna have different UVs, right? But there is nothing specific so far that we have.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Cheers.
Okay, thank you, Maloy. Okay, next question. Can we please have a RGB tint shader material to add to wearables so folks can forgo using the hair shader, maybe an instant material per wearable? Yes.
Awesome. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so there is something that we are discussing, okay? There is some technical limitations regarding our avatar and the system that was implemented in the beginning, and the amount of wearables and items that has been already approved for that avatar system really blocks some creativity from our side in terms of doing new things, right? That's part of creating a protocol and being retrocompatible and all of that. We are considering like a next generation of avatars with tons of those features. I mean, spring bones and bones that can move independently of the base body, or this is what we call masks, on color masks. So it's not only about having an RGB mask, it's about having a texture mask that can have RGB, right?
That's
so
awesome. Yeah.
If you have hair, you can have different stripes of hair, but with different color tints, and maybe those color tints actually can blend together, so you can have a color scheme for your hair on 2 colors and blend those colors together in different patterns. That is part of how are we are trying to be ambitious on how to create the next iteration of the avatar, and what are the kind of features that we can integrate them there, and then later try to see how we can transform our avatar into that direction, and how we can make retrocompatible all the assets that you guys have done so far and all the emotes. It's a really challenging system, but we are now aware that we are really limited with what we can do with the current bone structure and animation systems and Unity. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Awesome stand to come, probably. Okay, next question. Will user be able to change names in Word through their backpack? Yes. Next question. Now, we have that in the roadmap. I know that that's a long overdue task that we needed to do. So we have included that in the roadmap. I don't know if it's going to be in the first quarter or the second. Miguel, do you want to talk? Oh, sorry. If in which quarter you're going to be? Probably in the first one. But yeah, we're going to be easy. It's going to be easy for players to swap between their names or their non-name. They want just to...
Right? I am.
Sorry? Okay. So yeah, long story short, yes. Next question. Are there any plans to improve the gameplay and have a smooth experience like Web 2 games, like World of Warcraft, Fortnite, etc.?
Well,
okay.
Yes, definitely there is plan. And I already also mentioned a bit about, the different setting that if you compare us to World of Warcraft or Fortnite, we have a little bit different environment that we are working with, especially of the content that we don't own it at all. And everything is super dynamic in the world. But yes, definitely there are plans to improve. And on top of that, WebGL has some of the restrictions that we cannot really compensate over. So definitely desktop has much smoother experience already. So I suggest also switching to that on daily basis. That will make your life much, much easier.
And in terms of gameplay, we are thinking all the time about what can we unlock from the SDK so you can build your own experiences. Consider that we, in the Decentraland and in the foundation, we are not in charge of the content. So we are in charge only about the tools that we provide the content creators to create their experiences. The better the tools we create and the ability that we provide to content creators, the better, the best experience they will be able to create. So that is our main focus. It's not about creating the experiences per se. It's about creating the tools. So making sure that the client is performant, making sure that you can control the avatar, play animations on the avatar, equip items in the hands, having attaching points, integrate with a quest system, have integration with the map so you can print stuff in the map, having a collision system on the avatar, controlling the camera, controlling lights or having dynamic lights or particles, or being able to control the skybox, or you mentioned those are building blocks for content creators to create their own scenes. And at some point, we can reach the quality of a Fortnite. Hopefully, that's our dream, if people can create the kind of experiences with our engine. But that's a long path. Hope that answers your question. This is moving fast. Are there any plans to improve? Yeah, I have answered that question already. Can districts be split up into individual squares so that we can see them better on the maps? Yes. So that is, we have in the oven a new renderer for the map. So the map right now is being rendered by a texture, by a multiple textures inside world. So now we have the map being rendered by a shader, and that shader contains is requesting the information from the catalyst that contains more information about individual lands. So what we're doing is to display the individual parcels or the cluster of parcels and scenes inside the district. So we have that almost ready. We need to find the time to deliver that because we have other priorities, but the render in map, the in world with the parcels in the districts are almost ready. Next question, it will be, it is possible to make a bootcamp to learn to use the SDK for beginner? The YouTube videos helps, but it could be better. This is a question for the SDK team. I know that they have prepared some hackathons and other things in the past, so people can start learning, and we actually have donated lands to winners and all of that. I don't know what we have ready for the next few months. I know that we have a new documentation page for the SDK, and the new version of the SDK 7 is coming, and it comes with a very handy documentation and an easy-to-use editor. So it will be more approachable for people to start coding in the SDK. But I will come back to you on when we can do the next events on for Bootcamp. Okay. When will be able to visit other metaverse platforms with my avatar outfits, for example, Decentraland to Sandbox or other platforms? This is a tricky question. Okay, so this is about interoperability, and we don't have a strong opinion about this. Okay, Decentraland is already exposing the content of the avatar and the algorithms to build the avatar. Also, the animations and the distance that the avatars walks or jumps or run, that is already exposed and open source. So anybody, hypothetically, can go and implement the avatar in other ecosystems. So having your avatar in the sandbox is not just a question of us implementing that. It's about the sandbox wanting to have the Decentraland avatars in their metaverse. So we are the open protocol. Other people need to connect to the open protocol in order to do it. Okay. So we can definitely provide better tools and better documentation for other peoples to integrate into it. But we are the one open. The closed gardens or the walled gardens are the ones that need to do the next steps in order to create interoperability. I hope that answers your question. It's a tricky one. But yeah, also regarding the avatar, we would like to move toward the direction of having an avatar and a digital identity slightly more disconnected from the world that you're going to be working or experiencing. But that's another long conversation and very philosophical. Malloy, in the latest iteration of the avatar system, alongside Jiggle Bones, could we please have Vertex data-based Wind shader?
Hey, me again. Yeah, I was wondering if I think it would. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it's it's too much of a time sink. But I'm just going to drop this link. It will automatically download a PDF from the Game Developers Conference Vault, which goes over animating via Vertex math, like using math to animate things based off Vertex strengths. So one of the things that we could do going forward is if you had potential, I guess, shader reference allocations from 3D software to .glb export, you could have specific kind of shader data setups for different hair. So hair jiggles, like hair would wiggle without having to be rigged to a bone. Wind for different fabrics and things like that. I think, I wouldn't know how you'd have to go about setting that up, but if something like that would be possible, that would be amazing for creators to kind of expand what we can pull off.
I love the way you think, Malloy.
Sorry for being a pest.
This is what I call the Metal Gear Solid 2 effect. I remember when I bought Metal Gear Solid 2, it was one of the first implementing vertex displacement using the wind. So the effect on the clothes was amazing at that game. Okay, let's divide that question into several. I don't know how much time we have, but 10 minutes. So one of the things is that if you have a consistent, for example, wind force that is being declared by the scene, you can use that data in order to have like a vertex weight displacement on your avatar and being affected by the scene wind. So for example, if I have a clothes and this scene is very windy, the clothes going to be moving more. If I am in this other scene that the wind is quiet, you won't see the wind moving or the clothes moving, right? That is actually creating global systems for scenes that can affect the world configuration in terms of physics and forces and all of that. We don't have plans for those. And it will be awesome to have them, but we don't have plans for those. What we have planned in the new avatar system is to be able to integrate blend shapes. So you can have blend shapes on your clothes, and you can create custom animations using those blend shapes along with the avatar state machine. that's a conversation of possible things that could be cool to implement. In any case, Malloy, I know that you are very interested into this. Maybe we can open the discussion of the Avatar 2.0 and you can be part of it, because I think you have very good
Awesome.
ideas.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Anyway, next question. Are there any plans to fix cast shadows so that if it's set to false, it will not cast shadows? There's no plan to fix that. It's supposed to be broken. There is a property in the SDK that allows you to modify the cast shadow of an GLT shape?
I can confirm that yes, they have that property, and yes, it's broken. We have an issue open for that fix.
Okay. So yeah, we have it in the backlog. I mean, depending on the use case, if that is breaking your scenes, we can try to prioritize that better. So I will suggest you, anonymous person, to open a ticket, explain why cast shadow is being a problem for you, and we can try to prioritize the fix of that. Any chance that we can just get items in game that are not NFTs? Items in game. Okay. Items like what? A reward like a wearable that is not an NFT? Can you extend on this question? I mean, NFTs or the blockchain is the way that the Decentraland have decided to ensure the ownership of items in a decentralized way. So the Decentraland doesn't need to have a database that tells this person have this amount of this item, because that would be against the philosophy of the organization. So if we need to provide items in a different way, it needs to be sustained, or that ownership needs to be guaranteed, even if a database explodes or if it's not maintained by the Decentraland. So we will need to look at the use case of having a different system for the blockchain, other than the blockchain, to ensure that ownership, and why we want to build it. But for now, we have thought about having, how do you call it? Subsidiary? I don't know the word in English. We have thought about creating accounts that doesn't need to have a wallet. So you can claim your items, but Decentraland will claim the NFTs for you until you're ready to jump to a wallet, so we can pass those assets to you. So we can keep track of ownership of those assets in the Decentraland wallets that are custodials. That's what the word that I was looking for. We can have a custodial wallet, and whenever you're ready to have a wallet, we can pass those assets to you. But yeah, I don't think we have. Probably the assets can be on a scene level as well. So, for example, in Wondermine, you can have gems and you can have pickaxes and all that, and that is stored in a private database from the Wondermine owner. So that's a way that you can have an inventory, but those items are not part of the avatar inventory and the wallet. They are part of the scene ecosystem and database. So at some point, if we create NFT items, there will be a system where you will have in your inventory items that you can interact with, like a ticket or a gun or an umbrella, for example. Maybe in the future, we can extend that compatibility to SDK, so the scene can create items and integrate them into the backpack, so they are visible inside the backpack as another NFT item. But that's a very long shot. So yeah, a umbrella will be awesome. Yes. So I hope that that answered your question. I think we have 3 more minutes. I think I can do one more. Could you discuss the progress of Decentraland's contribution to building the open metaverse standards for building interoperable worlds? Oh, that's not a question that I can answer in 3 minutes. That will be not my question to answer. That will be more like Agus Mendez and Esteban question to answer. So it's a very good question, but we cannot really reply that right here. So we will come back to you with a reply on that. Anonymous, will it be possible to set certain display settings either through code or URL params, such as draw distance, scene radius, and time of day? So we are, I don't know if you're aware that, yeah, last question. So this is based on your configuration. So this is player choice. The player decided draw distance, the scene radius. This is based on what they want, and scenes cannot really operate on that. Another thing is about the skybox. The skybox is something that we can integrate into the SDK, so developers can modify the time of day. But I don't think we will expose settings, configurations to scene or content creators for now. But there is another initiative that is the Worlds initiative, where scenes will be playable isolated, and there is a room for discussion there. But I will say no for now, and that's it. That was the last question, right?
Thank you, Alvaro. Thank you very much. Well, in the name of the whole community, I want to thank you again, because these AMA sessions are being really useful for everyone. So thanks again. Last announcement, next week on Wednesday, we see again on the dApps AMA session. It's going to be the last one for this year, and then we will restart on 11th January. Tomorrow we have the PC VR client beta testing, and also the editor is ready to beta test too. So I'm gonna share the links here. Well, and thank you very much. I don't know, Pato, if you wanna say something else. If not, we can finish here and see you next week.
Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you, everybody. Very interesting question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.